Let's begin by going over exactly what we'll cover in this video. First, we'll look at the brain's role as part of the central nervous system. Next, we'll examine different regions of the brain and their specific functions. Then we'll explore the methods scientists use to study the brain. Finally, we'll discuss some of the challenges in investigating and treating brain disorders. Along with the spinal cord, the brain forms part of the central nervous system. It's made up of billions of interconnected neurons, specialized cells that communicate through electrical and chemical signals. The brain is in charge of all our complex behaviors. It controls and coordinates everything we do. Different regions of the brain carry out different functions. Understanding these regions helps us appreciate how this complex organ works. The cerebral cortex is the outer wrinkly layer of the brain. This region is responsible for higher functions like consciousness, intelligence, and language. The cerebellum is located at the back of the brain and is primarily responsible for muscle coordination. It helps ensure our movements are smooth and precise. The medulla is a region that controls unconscious activities, things you don't have to think about doing, like breathing and regulating your heartbeat. Scientists use a range of methods to study the brain and map out which bits do what. One approach involves studying patients with brain damage. If a small part of the brain has been damaged, the effect this has on the patient can tell us a lot about what the damaged part of the brain does. For example, if an area at the back of the brain was damaged by a stroke and the patient went blind, you know that this area has something to do with vision. The brain can also be studied by electrical stimulation. By pushing a tiny electrode into the tissue and giving it a small zap of electricity, scientists can observe what happens. When different parts of the brain tissue are stimulated, it's possible to get an idea of what those parts do. For instance, when a certain part of the brain, known as the motor area, is stimulated, it causes muscle contraction and movement. Magnetic resonance imaging, MRI scanners, are advanced machines that can produce very detailed pictures of the brain structures. Scientists use these to find out what areas of the brain are active when people are doing things like listening to music or trying to remember something. Knowledge of how the brain works has led to the development of treatments for disorders of the nervous system. For example, electrical stimulation of the brain can help reduce muscle tremors caused by nervous system disorders, such as Parkinson's disease. However, the brain is incredibly complex and delicate. This makes the investigation of brain function and the treatment of brain damage or disease challenging. It also carries risks, such as physical damage to the brain during surgery. This means treatments must be developed and applied with extreme caution. Neuroscientists, scientists who study the brain, continue to develop new technologies and methods to better understand this complex organ. Each advancement brings us closer to understanding how the brain works and how to treat neurological disorders more effectively. In our next episode, we'll explore another fascinating sensory organ, the eye, and discover how it allows us to perceive the visual world around us.